O Muballigh, for you is my prayer. O Muballigh, for you is my prayer. May you keep ascending success, success.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'awudhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. We begin by giving you a blessing of reciting through the Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam is reported to have said, wherever you are, send salat upon me, because your salat reaches me. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, we've said it many times before, and we're going to continue to say it. Please make a habit of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala. So make it part of your daily routine, especially if you are traveling to work or you've got a set time aside. So utilize this time, set aside, create a routine in your life during this time, and hopefully this routine will continue for the rest of your life. That during this time, make a routine and set aside some time of reciting Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala. And every program that you watch on Madani Channel, we give you a blessing reciting Durud Pak. And in many you hear that those people are fortunate, they get this reward and that reward if they recite Durud Pak in abundance. The scholars of the deen have said to us that those people that recite Durud Pak approximately 313 times, well at least 313 times every day, then inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, they will be counted amongst those people who are rewarded when we hear that this will be the reward of those who recite Durud Pak in abundance. So please make a habit of reciting Durud Pak and try and set yourself a target of a minimum of 313 daily. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, this world is a pace of trials. We hear it as the trials. And one moment we have ease in our lives, and the next moment is difficult. So it's basically, you know what you would say in the English language, it's a bit of a roller coaster. We have these ups and downs, we have the troubles, we have the trials, we have the tribulations, and then we have the ease, and we have the comfort as well. But this is what life is all about. In life, we face these grievances, we face this pain, we face these sacrifices. But what is very important is how we face those difficulties that are in front of us, how we take on the sacrifices that are put in front of us. We all have these, you may call them hurdles, you may have these problems that come in front of you, but it's again how you deal with them. And inshallah Azza wa Jal, in today's weekly Ijtima, we're going to talk about some of the sacrifices that were made by the Sahabiyat, the companions, the female companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the sacrifices that they made. And like we said before many times, that these incidences that I'm going to mention to you today, they have been recorded for us and maintained for us. These incidents have been maintained for over 1400 years. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that we, and from now until the Day of Judgment, we can learn a lesson from these incidents. So these are not just stories that sound like good stories, or it's a nice story that, well, no, we need to learn a lesson from that. So whenever you attend a weekly Ijtima, or whenever you attend any gathering in which incidents of the past are mentioned, think to yourself that this has been recorded, it's been kept. You know, from the time of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam till now, 1400 years. Why was it kept? Why was this story maintained? Obviously, there's something behind that, and I hope we can focus on that and learn something from this. Before accepting Islam, Sayyidina Hazrat Faruq radiyallahu ta'ala, he was an ardent enemy of Islam, in the sense that he was not happy that any people were accepting Islam. And one day he left his home. He left his home with the intention that today, you know what, he had his sword with him, today I'm going to Na'uzubillah, I'm going to go and kill the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam. And when he was leaving his home, someone asked him, where are you going? And he told them that this is my intention, and they said, before you go there, sort out your own household. When he asked, well, what do you mean by that? He said, your sister and your brother-in-law have accepted Islam. Subhanallah. So obviously now he was angry, because one thing is this, that he's against it, but now his own family members. So he marched towards the house. And when he got there, the sister of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, Sayyidina Fatima bint Khabab radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and her husband Sayyidina Sa'id bin Zayd, they'd already obviously become Muslims, but they'd not declared it, they'd not mentioned it to their brother, because they were scared of him. They were scared of what he was going to do. And when he came close to the house, he realized that they were reciting the Holy Quran inside. And this again made him so infuriated that he got so angry And he banged on the door, and he banged on his sister's door, and he said, "Oh, the enemy of your own life, have you also accepted Islam?" Because basically saying that you are your own life's enemy. He's coming, he's going to hurt you, he's going to kill you. "Oh, the enemy of your own life, have you accepted Islam?" And when he heard that, then obviously they were scared. They were scared inside the house. And when they opened the door, he pounced upon his brother-in-law, Sayyidina Sa'id bin Zayd radiallahu ta'ala, and grabbed his beard and dragged him to the ground and started beating him. His own sister, Sayyidina Fatima bint Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, grabbed him in order to save her husband. And he, Sayyidina Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala, he slapped her so hard that her earrings broke, falling to the ground, and her face became full of blood. Despite all of this, despite the fact that she'd now been injured and her husband was getting beat up, she said, "Umar, listen, do whatever you can, but we will never ever turn away from Islam." As soon as he saw the blood on his sister's face and heard her passionate and emotive words, his heart immediately softened. And he stood silently for a short while and then said, "Show me what you are reciting. Show me what you're reciting." Then words that unpacked me, that this is sister. I just hurt my sister. I'm hurting her husband. And they're saying, no matter what you do to us, we're not going to leave Islam. Now this had an impact on him. It softened his heart and he paused. And he said to his sister, "Tell me, show me what you're reading." Thus the sister placed the pages of the Holy Quran in front of him. And he began to recite a few verses of Surah Hadid. And he began to tremble. These words had an impact upon him. And the effect of the truthfulness of the Quran struck him in his heart. And when he reached the verse, and I give you the translation from Kanzul Imam, "Believe in Allah and His Messenger." Allahu Akbar. It is stated that he could not control himself. Tears began to fall from his eyes. Every part of his body began to tremble. And he loudly exclaimed, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh." He then quickly went to the house of Sayyidina Zayd bin Arqam radiyallahu ta'ala, and he embraced the faith upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam. And then he took the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam and all of the Muslims to the Kaaba, and he announced that he had accepted Islam. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, what do we learn from this? Like I said, these lessons are there for a reason. These stories are there for the reason. Number one, we realize the immense impact that the Quran has on people's lives. When people read the Quran, it has a huge impact on people's lives. It's changed people's lives. So many people's lives have changed as a result of the Holy Quran. I remember once, viewers of Madani Channel, that there was a Muslim, and he was traveling with a group of people in Europe. And he'd accepted Islam, but he'd hid it from his colleagues who he was traveling with. And once in a while, they actually did see him, doing sajda, and thought maybe he's looking for something, yeah? And they didn't pay any attention. They didn't ask him any questions. And when they were coming back from Europe in a van, they were all sat in a van and they had all of the stuff behind them. One of the people in the van said to me that all of a sudden something came in front of the road. And the driver hit the brake. And when the driver hit the brake, all of the stuff from the back came to the front. And with it, this person who was a Muslim, who they did not know was a Muslim, the Quran he put at the top, it called forward and it landed on this person's head, this passenger's head. Now it was the translation of the Quran. So he thought to himself, well, I'm here now, I'll start reading this book. And this person, before he even completed his journey, he'd accepted Islam. And that is the translation of the Quran. What impact it can have on people's life. When people read the Quran in its original form, then people change their lives. And as we see here today in that event that took place, that Sayyidina Hazrat Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala, as a result of just listening to some verses of the Quran, it had an immense impact in his heart. And it changed him for the better. And think to yourself, viewers, how amazing it is that Sayyidina Hazrat Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala, he left his home. Why did he leave his home? He left his home to make the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He may have left his home to martyr the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now today, where is he? He's resting alongside the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is Islam. This is the change that brings about it. But the second thing that we learn is that those people who accepted the religion of Islam in those early days, they were subjected to every kind of difficulty in order to turn the way and follow the deen of Islam. But we should be sacrificed on their lives, views of Madani Channel. That these Sahaba and the Sahabiyat, they sacrificed their lives, they sacrificed everything to accept the deen of Islam. And this is just one example that we have. And rather, these people, they not only sacrificed their wealth, they not even sacrificed their health, they were even willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of Islam. And it's through their sacrifices, views of Madani Channel, that the deen of Islam is here today. And it's stated viewers of the channel, that not only did the Sahabiyat remain prepared at all times for the sake of Islam, but they even sacrificed their wealth, children, brothers, fathers, husbands, and even their all lives whilst treading on the path of truth. And this is the sacrifices that they make. And it makes you think, viewers of the channel, what sacrifices are we making? You know, we're born in a Muslim household. The majority of the viewers are born in a Muslim household. When we are born, the azan is given in our ears. Within a few days, you know, we have our head shaved, we have the akikah, we're given a Muslim name. We're brought up in a Muslim household at the age of 4, 5, 6, we're taken to the madrasa and we're learning. What sacrifices have we made? What sacrifices have I made? What have you made? Have we made any sacrifices for the deen? We may say we have, but in reality, if we compare ourselves to those people who've treaded on this path, yet even today, I admit that if you follow the path of the deen, if you follow Islam, then yes, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's an easy path. Shaitan isn't going to make this path easy for us, but compare yourselves to these people, the people of the past and the sacrifices that they made, and you will realize, viewers of Madani Channel, that our life is a lot easier than theirs. Sayyidina Sumayya, radiyallahu ta'ala, the mother of the famous companion of the Prophet, Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir, radiyallahu ta'ala, is that courageous woman who has the honor of being the first female martyr in Islam. She was the first amongst the women to present her blood and strengthen the roots of Islam. Her acceptance of Islam was her crime, and the staunch disbelievers subjected her to such oppression and traumas that are beyond our imagination. It is narrated that when the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would witness her with her son, Sayyidina Ammar radiyallahu ta'ala, and her husband Sayyidina Yasir radiyallahu ta'ala, bearing difficulties in the scorching desert, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, "O family of Yasir, have patience, for you is the promise of paradise." Allahu Akbar. It is stated, viewers of Madani, that they did so much to her. Imagine, you know, we're talking about the scorching heat of the Arabian desert now, and they were put like iron armor on her. They put iron armor on her, not to protect her, no. They put this iron armor on her and laid her in the heat of the sun, so that when the iron armor would heat up, it would effectively burn her. But no matter what suffering she took, no matter what pain she took, that steadfast was still there, and she never diverted away from Islam for 1 second of her life. And this is what the strength of Iman that they had. Again, look at ourselves. What sacrifices are we willing to make? You know, it's stated that the patience that she had will be remembered, and we're still remembering it from 1400 years ago, and we will remember it until the Day of Judgment. How she became, I mentioned earlier on that she became the first female martyr of Islam. How did this happen, viewers of Madani Channel? It happened that Abu Jahl, he once had a spear in his hand, and he threatened her, saying to her, "Do not recite the kalma, otherwise I will strike you with this spear." Courageously, listen to this, viewers of Madani Channel. Sayyidina Sumayya radiyallahu ta'ala began to recite the kalma loudly. Overwhelmed with rage, Abu Jahl struck her so forcibly with a spear below her navel that she became covered in blood, falling to the ground, and attained martyrdom. The first female martyr of Islam died for the sake of Islam, lived for the sake of Islam, sacrificed everything for the sake of Islam, was punished for the sake of Islam, felt so much grievance, so much pain for the sake of Islam. And when we look at ourselves, then what are we doing? What pain do we have to face? We don't have to face any pain. Nowadays, Islam calls upon us to give sacrifice. Yes, but not that kind of sacrifice. Amir al-Sunnah, he says to that, provide 2 hours of the deen every day. That's all we're asking. Amir al-Sunnah in his Madani Channel, in that he says that give 2 hours of the deen every day. Do we do it? Or can we not even sacrifice that? We find it so hard to sacrifice 2 hours of our life on a daily basis. And when we look at them, we look at the past, look at our pious predecessors, look at the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They sacrificed not 2 hours, they sacrificed their lives. And when you look back at them, and you think to yourself, now what am I doing? I should be ashamed of myself. You know, it's their sacrifices. It's the sacrifices of the likes of the people that I've mentioned so far. It's their sacrifices that has brought the deen to us today. If it was not for their sacrifices, then would the deen be here today? Maybe, maybe not. The sacrifices through generation and generation and generation have been made. Every generation people have sacrificed their lives, their time, their wealth, their health, their families, so that the deen of Islam can be spread. And now it has got to us. 1400 years the deen has been preserved and it's got to us. What is our responsibility now? Is it our responsibility to not know that we should also make some sort of sacrifice? Should we not also be having patience in the face of difficulties, in the face of problems? When we look at the back of the patience that they had, the hardships that they faced, we should also have this mindset that we should be patient no matter what happens to us. We should be thankful in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal no matter what happens to us. But at the same time, we should be willing to take that extra step. As they say in English, go the extra mile. And what is going the extra mile? The going the extra mile is calling people towards the faith, doing the work of deen and calling people towards it. It's narrated, viewers of the channel, that when the greatness of Islam entered the heart of Sayyiduna Sharik radiyallahu ta'ala, that she became worried that even though she would attain salvation in the hereafter, listen to this, viewers of the channel, she became worried that, because, okay, I'm now on the right path. And inshallah, Azza wa Jal, I will attain salvation in the hereafter. But her acquaintances, she thought to herself that my own friends, my own family, people I know, they will become the fuel of the hellfire. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, and I give you the translation, save yourselves and your family from that fuel who is stones and men. Yes, viewers of the channel, the fire of the hellfire, the fuel, will be human beings. And she had that fear inside us, that what will happen to these people? And thus, this particular companion of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she began to strive day and night in order to save her acquaintances from becoming the fire fuel of hell. And with great secrecy and steadfastness, she would spread the call to righteousness to the women of Quraysh. When the people of Makkah found out about it, they captured her and said, if it wasn't for your tribe, we would have severely punished you. But we will not allow you to stay here with us in Makkah. We will take a sigh of relief only after sending you to Muslims in Medina. Thus they made her ride a camel. We neither had a saddle, nor a cloth, nor a rein. Now, that in itself, viewers on the channel, is a punishment. You know, when, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to sit on a horse, yeah? And I'm talking here, this is a camel. Sitting on a horse without a saddle in itself is very uncomfortable, yeah? They made this Sahabiya to sit on a camel without a saddle, without a cloth, with anything. And they took her in the desert through the blazing sun. But whenever they would stop at any place to camp, they would tie her in the sun and they would sit in the shade themselves. And this continued for 3 days, and they would neither feed her anything nor give her any water to drink. Remember, viewers of the channel, we're talking about a time nowadays when you're going from Makkah Sharif to Madani Sharif, you can get there in 4 or 5 hours, maybe even shorter. But this was a time where they used to go on camel or on horseback, and used to take days to make this travel. So when she was tied to this camel, they would not let her come off the camel at all. So she was stuck to that camel. And whenever they would stop to camp, they would sit in the shade and they would leave her in the blazing sun on this camel. They would give her nothing to eat. In addition to bearing the difficulties of the journey in the scorching heat of Arabia, she also bore the pangs of hunger and thirst. But not one moment did she let her patience leave her. Ultimately, it is stated that when she, radiallahu ta'ala, began to lose her senses, the divine mercy enveloped her, and such grace showered upon her that those who subjected to oppression and cruelty repented and became Muslims themselves. Yes, listen to this, viewers on the channel. It is as though, people have said that in this particular incident, it is as though the hunters became the hunted themselves. What happened? I'll explain to you. One day, when the caravan stopped to camp at a place as per usual, they tied her in the sun and they sat in the shade themselves. She suddenly felt the coolness of something on her chest. When she looked up, she saw a pitcher of water that appeared from the vastness of the heavens, and she had just drunk a little bit of water restlessly when it rose back up again. After some time, the pitcher appeared again, so she drank a bit more water, and again it was raised up again. It is stated that this happened several times, and when the water slowly entered her body, she began to regain her strength, and the entire pitcher was given to her. Thus, she, radiallahu ta'ala, drank to her fill, and poured the rest of the water on her body and clothes to cool herself down. When these people who had captured her came to saw, and then they saw that the signs of water were on her, and they saw that water was on her clothes because the remaining water she poured on herself to cool herself down, and so there was water marks in the sand below her. They said to her, did you untie yourself and drink water from the water skins? Allahu Akbar. And when she denied this and informed them of the reality, they did not believe it. However, they did say, if you are truthful, then your religion is better than our religion. Therefore, when they checked the water skins, the water that they had, and they realized that not a single drop had been taken, Allahu Akbar, then all of them came back and they accepted Islam. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Can we even imagine? Just, we mentioned many, many sacrifices there. Sitting on the camel without a saddle. Sitting in the blazing sun, not in the shade. Not having any food, not having any water for 3 days. Here in the UK, when the month of Ramadan comes, and at the moment it's in the longer days, and we think it's an 18-hour fast. Oof, how long is that fast? 19 hours. Such a long fast. Yeah, cool weather here. Cool weather here. We're in the comfort of our homes. We're not in the scorching heat. And then every 18, 19 hours, we eat and drink to our fill. Imagine 3 days in the scorching heat. One, you've not sitting in a restless place, because nowadays people, you see them, unfortunately, what happens during the month of Ramadan, that what happens is people, during the month of Ramadan, they have the sari and then they sleep. Literally for the rest of the day, unfortunately. Many people, unfortunately, I know we're going against the topic here, we use money, but unfortunately they miss the salah because what? They just want to sleep the whole of the day. So they're fasting during the month of Ramadan, but no zuhr, no asr. Oh yes, but they're up for Maghrib. They get up before Maghrib, they're up in time for Maghrib. And again, this is very important that, we don't waste that time. But think to yourself that this particular sahabiyat, that she was suffering in that pain, but not once did she complain about a situation. Not once did she say that I'm suffering in this situation. And she was thankful all the time. And she never wavered away from Islam. Remember, viewers of Madani Channel, Islam is spread by sacrifices. Islam is spread by sacrifices. And today when we ask people to make sacrifices, we say to people that travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal, we've got the 3-day, we haven't got the Madani Qaflas traveling. But when, with the Madani Qaflas we're traveling, you ask people to travel for 3 days, they find it so hard. I haven't got 3 days. I can't travel for 3 days. I can't do this. And yet we see that our pious predecessors, when they left their homes to travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal, they traveled in such a way that they didn't look back where their homes were. They went. And when they went, many, many times, they never came back to the homes. And they spent the rest of their life traveling in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And yet we, 3 days, too much Khalid. I can't give 3 days. I'm a busy person. Yeah, I can't give 3 days. I haven't got that much time on my hands. You have. When a wedding turns up, all of a sudden you find 3 days. When unfortunately, if there's a death in the family, then all of a sudden we don't work for a full week, if not longer. We find that time. So time does exist. It's our mindset, viewers of Madani Channel, that we're not willing to give that time. And if you're honest with yourself, it is a shaitani waswasa. MashaAllah, Adil Bhai sat with me today. I remember we traveled on a Madani Qafla together once. And there was an incident where there was a mechanic of a garage and he was not willing to travel with us. The brothers constantly were inviting him to travel on the Madani Qafla. And he kept on saying, my garage is, I've got my garage, I can't. And then one week he said, you know what, every time you keep on inviting me with such beautiful words, you know what, I'll close up my garage and I'll come with you. He travelled with us on the Madani Qafla. Friday he arrives there, Saturday arrives there, and the brothers thought, you know what, he's going to disappear from the Madani Qafla, he's going to go home. On Sunday, towards the end of the Madani Qafla, when we're tidying up and we're collecting all our stuff, he's sitting in a corner crying. Sitting in a corner crying, and we were already thinking maybe we've done something wrong. And we asked him, Bhai, what's the problem? He said, you all go. I'm staying here. I don't want to go home. Allahu Akbar. He said, all my life, I've never felt peace and contentment like I felt here today. And we said to him, look, we're all going home now. You can go. No, I'm not going home. And in the same way, we had to struggle to make him come on the Madani Qafla. In the same way, we had to struggle to take him away from the Madani Qafla. And so many people have said that these shaitani waswasa happened to us, that we don't want to travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And shaitan will keep on telling us, no, you're too busy. No, you got this. No, you got that. But as soon as you put your foot inside the masjid, as soon as you become a guest of Allah Azza wa Jal and you're sitting in the house of Allah Azza wa Jal, all of that problems will disappear. Remember this, viewers of Madani Channel. Work is never finished. Your work is never finished, but your life is ebbing away. Your time is disappearing away. What sacrifices are you willing to give? And we need to be worthy of that and be willing to give that sacrifices. And if we look at the people of the past, they sacrificed everything that they had. They sacrificed not only their lives, they sacrificed their wealth and everything. Nowadays, when you ask people to give, to spend in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla, we find it hard. Okay, we're saying that don't give our lives. We're not asking for that extremity. We're asking for your time, which Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed you with. We're asking for you to spend in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla, but we find it hard. There was an incident where a sahabiyat came in front of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was wearing 2 gold bangles. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to her, do you pay zakat on these? And she replied, no. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, do you want Allah Azza wa Jal to make you wear bangles of fire on the day of judgment due to not paying zakat on them? Hearing this, that fortunate Sahabiya radiallahu ta'ala immediately removed her bangles and presented them to the Holy Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala sallam, and said, these are for Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger. Allahu Akbar. Viewers, Madani Channel, again, another important message there for us. Do we pay the zakat on the wealth that Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed us with? Yes, remember this. Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed us with that wealth. Our sisters, if you have gold, if you have any gold, who has given you that gold? Yes, your husband bought it for you. Yes, you may have bought it yourself. But it is your duty now to pay the zakat on that. Nowadays, we make all sorts of excuses. Oh, I'm keeping this gold for my son. I'm keeping this gold for my daughter. I'm keeping this gold for... Keep it, but pay the zakat on it. And if you cannot pay the zakat, then sell it to pay the zakat on it. But again, we make all sorts of excuses. Remember this, viewers of Madani Channel, you can fool me. You can make a fool out of me and convince me that what you're doing is right, but you will not be able to do it on the Day of Judgment. When you are in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla, you'll not be able to do this. So don't make excuses. If zakat is due on your wealth, if zakat is due on the gold you have, if zakat is due on the silver that you have, then make sure you pay it. All brothers and sisters should be sitting down at the home, looking at their assets and thinking to themselves, what zakat is due upon me? And again, this is another slight misconception that we have, viewers of Madani Channel. We give our zakat during the month of Ramadan. Why? Because it is a greater reward in that time. However, zakat is due 12 months after you have that wealth in you. Don't wait for the month of Ramadan. When zakat is due upon you, pay it. Yes, without doubt, the month of Ramadan has great rewards. But when zakat is due on you, pay it. Sit down now, calculate this, and make sure you do this. And if, again, you've not paid it for many years, then again, you have to make it up. You have to pay that zakat, viewers of Madani Channel. Alhamdulillah, make sure you do this. You don't want to have all of this wealth that Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed you with become fire for you on the Day of Judgment. Like that, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to that companion, do you want that to be wearing fires of bangles of gold on the Day of Judgment because you did not pay the zakat? Can you imagine that? The pain and the suffering you will face? Viewers of Madani Channel, is stated, scholars have said, that if you were to take all of the calamities in this world, all of the illnesses in this world, all of the pain and suffering that is in this world and put it in one person, can you imagine what pain and suffering that one person would face? He would have all of the world's pain and suffering in one person. It is stated that that pain, that suffering is nothing in comparison to the lightest punishment in the hellfire. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the pain and the suffering that we would face? It is mentioned in a narration once, viewers of Madani Channel, that once a close acquaintance of Sayyiduna Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala, Sayyiduna Munkadir bin Abdullah, came to her and expressed his need. At that time she had nothing. So she said to him, whatever I receive, whatever I get, I will send it to you first of all. Just a short while later, someone sent her 10,000 dirhams. Allahu Akbar. So she, radiallahu ta'ala, said to herself, oh Aisha, how quickly you have been inflicted with the test of wealth. Therefore, she immediately sent all of the dirhams to that particular person. Allahu Akbar. Wealth is a test. And again, people make good intention nowadays. We have many people that watch programs on Dawat on Madani Channel, and they make good intentions that I will build a masjid, I will build a well, I will do this, I will do that. And what happens is, shaitan starts whispering to you afterwards. After you listen to the program, shaitan starts whispering, you know what, you can't spend that money, you need that money. You know, if you give that money, then how are you going to get your car insured? How are you going to get that kitchen extension done? How are you going to get your son married? How are you going to do this? And these are all shaitani waswasas. So that's why the pious predecessors have said that whenever you want to do a good deed, then do it straight away. Because the longer you leave it, the longer the intention lingers, then shaitan gets a harder hold on you. So make good intentions and try and act upon them straight away. Don't wait. Because the longer you wait, shaitan grabs hold of you. And one of the ways, viewers of the Madani Channel, in making your intention firm is by telling someone, brother, I'm going to, inshallah, build a masjid. Inshallah, I'm going to give you X amount of pounds I'll be giving you. Tige, remind me. And now all of a sudden, I've told somebody my intention. And now a part of me will say, you know, if I don't fulfill this intention, then it's not good. So it kind of like this battle that goes inside you, it helps you to overcome this battle of shaitan inside you, to be able to give that money in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla, to be able to travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's why we say, even now we're saying, viewers of the channel, if you wish to travel on a Madani Qafla, yes, I know we're in the current situation, make an intention right now. But don't just make an intention right now and forget about it. Contact your local Zimadar. Contact your local zimmerdar and say to him, look, at the first opportunity of traveling in the Madani car, call me and I'll be there. No matter when it is, I'll go on a 3-day Madani car for the first opportunity that I get. Make that intention now. 2 benefits. 1, you've made an intention. 2, you've told that person, so inshallah azza wa jalla, it makes that intention firm. And 3rd, you will get the reward for that intention from now. Right from now, you'll start getting the intention. So make good intentions and act upon them. Viewers of Madani Channel, we've just heard a few incidences of how the female companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were willing to sacrifice the wealth and the life. So much so that even if they got their hands on thousands of dinars, and the incident that we just mentioned before, 10,000 dirhams, that is not a small amount even today, viewers of Madani Channel. 10,000 dirhams was presented to Sayyidina Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, and she straight away give it away in the way of Allah azza wa jal. You know, again, this is a test. She said herself, this is a test from Allah azza wa jal, that I've been tested by wealth. But she overcame that test and spent it in the way of Allah azza wa jal. And we need to have this mindset that, you know, we spend in the way of Allah azza wa jal. As the month of, Zulhajj comes and the time for Qurbani comes, and again we make excuses. Oh, I can't afford a bakra, I can't afford a sheep, I can't afford a hissa. You can afford the most expensive shoes, you can afford the most expensive jacket, you can afford the most expensive car, but you cannot afford, and so what you do is you buy the cheapest share in giving a sacrifice in the way of Allah azza wa jal. Again, ask yourself, is that right? You should know what is right and what is wrong. It is stated in the Quran, and I'll give you the translation from Kanzul Iman, you should never reach righteousness until you spend the thing you love in the way of Allah azza wa jal. In Tafsir Khazan, in the commentary of this verse, the meaning of goodness is piety and obedience, whereas Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma has stated that here spending is all inclusive of obligatory and voluntary almsgiving, i.e. sadaqah. It is stated that Imam Hassan Basri Rahmatullahi ta'ala stated that the one who spends the thing which is beloved to him for the pleasure of Allah azza wa jal, it is included in the virtue of this verse, even if it is one date. Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiyallahu ta'ala would buy bags of sugar, bags of brown sugar, and he would give it in sadaqah. And he was asked him, why do you not donate the money instead of doing this? And he said, I like brown sugar, so I want to donate what is beloved to me in the way of Allah azza wa jal. Allahu Akbar. But again, that sacrifice, where is it, viewers of Madani Channel? And we look at the time of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially at that time, we see the sacrifice that they had, that they were willing to lay everything down for the sake of Islam, willing to lay everything down for the love of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People lost their family members, people lost their brothers, their sisters, but as far as they were concerned, as long as the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was safe, then that was all that mattered to them. And this is the sacrifices that people made. When Sayyidina Hamza radiyallahu anhu was martyred mercilessly in the battlefield of Uhud, and his blessed body was dishonored by his nose and ears that they were cut off, his sister Sayyiduna Safiya radiyallahu ta'ala came out with the shroud, and the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prevented her from coming forward, lest she let go of her patience upon seeing the state of her brother. Therefore her son Sayyidina Zubair radiyallahu ta'ala said, my dear mother, the beloved of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is asking you to return back. Upon this she said, I have been informed regarding what has been done to my brother, but I am content that what it did with this as it was done in the way of Allah azza wa jal, and I will be patient. So she was given permission to go forward. And when Sayyidina Hamza radiyallahu anhu was shrouded, she showed such patience that will be these words, that such patience that we will remember it until the day of judgment. That when he was shrouded, she had 2 pieces of cloth that she shrouded him. There was no cloth left for the shroud of the Sahabi, another companion that was next to him. And so she took 1 piece of cloth off her brother and gave it to her Sahabi companion. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, this is the sacrifices that we hear about. And this is just some of the sacrifices that we're hearing about today. What does Islam demand of us today? Islam doesn't demand us currently in the current situation to go into a battlefield and give our lives. Islam asks us to sacrifice our time for the sake of Islam. Islam asks us to tread on the right path, to follow the pillars of Islam. Islam tells us to adopt the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam tells us to enable our families to tread the right path. And again, this is another thing that's very, very important, viewers of Madani Channel. We see that a lot of people, alhamdulillah, even, people that are zimadars, that, mashallah, that they are active within the work of Islam, but they should get the whole families involved. And even if the whole families are not involved, if your family is supporting of you. I remember there was one brother that I know, that he, mashallah, traveled on many, many Madani Qaflas. And there was time where he would travel and it was a 3-day Madani Qafla and he ended up coming home 6 days. But he said to me that I have the full support of my family. Maybe my family are not zimadars in Dawat Islami, but I have their full support, and that is all that I need if I have that support. So if our families are supporting us, then we should appreciate them. We should appreciate our families that they are supporting us. They are supporting our sacrifice. If they are supporting our sacrifice, then inshallah azza wa jal, they will get a reward in that sacrifice as well. And we need to appreciate that as well. I mean, again, I know it's going off topic, brothers and sisters, but nowadays what we see is that we don't appreciate our families. We don't look after our families. We don't care for our families. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I am the best amongst you when it comes to caring for my family. I'm the best in my household. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the chores of the household. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam helped the blessed mothers of the believers. He went and helped them as well. He did the chores of the household. For us to go home and say, I'm not going to do anything, for us to go home and be abusive to our family members, for us to go home and astaghfirullah, I've even heard of cases where people are beating up their family members, beating up their wives, beating up their mothers, and yet you think that you're all pious? Do you think on the day of judgment that piety will go through when it will be written in your book of deeds that you were beating up your wife or you were beating up your mother? What face will you be able to show on the day of judgment? So again, these are the things that, we need to have whatever face we have outside. That is the face that we should have in our home. Not that we're outside, we're nice, pious people. We're honest people outside, but then we come home, we're abusive people. That is not right either, viewers of Madani Channel. You may be able to hide your true self from the people outside because you go outside and you're nice, but on the day of judgment, your true self will be opened up. You'll not be able to hide any of this. It'll all come up in the open. And you will realize what will happen on that day. You'll be questioned about every act of cruelty that you did. Every act of cruelty that you did in your homes, to your wives, your children, your parents, whatever act of cruelty you did, you'll be questioned and you will be punished on that day. And like I said to you earlier on, viewers of Madani Channel, the lightest punishment that you will have in the hellfire will be more than anything that we can imagine in this world. More than all of the pains and calamities that we can have in this world. In one person, we cannot even imagine the lightest calamity that we'll have. So again, as Muslims, we should appreciate our families. We should look after our families. This is also our responsibility. Our responsibility is not only to call people towards the deen of Islam, but also to protect our family members as well and bring them closer to the Islam as well. And that only happens through love and patience as well. We need to also, viewers of Madani Channel, we need to sacrifice the useless worldly customs. These customs that have no basis at all in Islam. But we feel that we have to follow them. Why? Because, if I don't, then what will they say? If I don't have this function, then what will people say about me? Ask yourself, is that beneficial to you? Is it beneficial to your akhirat? If it is, okay. But if it is not, then think twice about it. Think about these customs and these rituals and say to you, are they in Islam? Because you're a Muslim first. Before you're a Pakistani, an Indian, a Bangladeshi, or an English person. You're a Muslim first. And we should remember this. Break connections with sins. Again, something that, sounds simple, but it involves a lot of sacrifice. A lot of willpower to stop doing certain things. If you can have that willpower inside yourself, then you can achieve so much. People have achieved so much with that willpower. You need to have that willpower inside you to stop committing these sins. Remove from yourself this arrogance and pride. This is something that we need to sacrifice in ourselves. Who are you to say that you're better than anybody else? Who are you to say that you have got more power than anybody else? So don't have this arrogance. Don't have this pride. Learn to humble yourself. I've given the example many times, viewers of Madani Channel, that a tree, what does it do? It lowers its branches and gives the fruit to you. If it had its branches like that, very few people will get to the fruit. We as Muslims should humble ourselves. We have so much to give to the world. Humble ourselves. Not only in front of everybody, also in front of our parents. Also in front of our children. Also in front of our wives. And again, this arrogance inside ourselves that why should I why should I forgive him? Why should I forgive this brother here? Does he not know who I am? Do you not know my status? Does not know I have more money than him and power than him? And yet, that should not be the way it is. We should be willing to go to people and seek forgiveness, no matter who they are, younger than you, weaker than you, not as powerful as you. So what? Go and seek the forgiveness. Be humble yourselves and never think to yourself that you are better than anybody else. Only Allah Azza wa Jal will decide who is the best. And only we will find that out on the Day of Judgment. Nobody has a certificate to say, oh, I'm better than this brother. He doesn't have a certificate to say that he's better than me. On the Day of Judgment, we'll both be worried. We'll both be worried. And we'll be worried about our own sins, our own actions. So I have no right to say that I'm better than anybody else. I remember once, viewers of I went to a gathering. And the gathering was taking place after a salah. And the person who was doing the speech, he said, who is the most pious person here? Who is the most pious person here? And all the people looking around thinking maybe some big scholars come here. And he said, nobody knows who the most pious person is here. Maybe the most pious person that has come to this masjid today is the person that came here. He was a taxi driver. He read his namaz and he's quickly gone out to earn a halal livelihood. Maybe he's the most pious person in the community today. We don't know that. So never look down at anybody and think that you are more pious than that person. Just because he's not read as many sunnahs or nafils as you, just because he's not done as much tasbih as you, he's not read as much Quran as you in the masjid, he's gone out to earn a halal livelihood, he's fulfilled what is obligatory upon him, he's read his namaz and he's gone. So never look down on people and never think you are better than anybody in any way, be it from a power point of view, be it from a wealth point of view, be it from an education point of view, be it from a piety point of view. Never think yourself as better than other. Always think yourself as less than everybody, and inshallah Azza wa Jal, you'll be successful. Another thing, strive, viewers of my channel, we all need to strive for the betterment of the hereafter by connecting to the environment of Dawat Islami. This is something I keep on saying to you, viewers of my channel, that if you want to improve yourself, which we all need to do, nobody, again, if a person says that I am perfect, then he's far from it. He is far from it. We all need to realize that we all have weaknesses. We all need to improve them weaknesses. But at the same time, by enjoining ourselves to the environment of Dawat Islam, then inshaAllah Azza wa Jal will remove our weaknesses. And inshaAllah Azza wa Jal will get at that mindset where we can go out and help other people as well. And within ourselves, viewers of the channel, we need to continue this battle. Yeah, I'm not talking about the battlefield that the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fought. No, I'm talking about the battlefield that's happening inside us. What is that battle? That is the battle against lying, the battle against backbiting, the battle against all these other sins, jealousy, all of these sins. We need to avoid these. And that is a personal battle that we all have. And if we want to talk about personal battles, one of the personal battles that we have is 5 times a day. Then 5 times a day, daily namaz. No matter what hurdle you face, no matter what problem you are facing, viewers of channel, no matter what shaitani waswasa you get, make sure you read your 5 daily namaz. Viewers of the channel, in today's speech, we've talked a little bit about the sacrifices of the companions of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sahabiyat. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward them. May Allah Azza wa Jal forgive us as a result of the sacrifices that they made. But again, viewers of the channel, that is our rich heritage that we need to read about. We need to be proud of this in our heritage, that this is in our history. But at the same time, we need to learn from their lives. That yes, I can never aspire to make the sacrifices that they made. But inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, I will try my best and make some sacrifices for myself and the deen of Islam. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal if I have said anything wrong, then may Allah Azza wa Jal forgive me. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that Allah give me, first and foremost, the ability to think about what I have said, and you also the ability to think about what I've said and to pass this message on to others so other people can benefit as well. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
For you, it's my prayer.